December 5th, 1945. The world was still trying to recover from the devastation of World War II. The sounds of gunfire, artillery, and bomb explosions were slowly being buried in the pages of history. However, for the United States, the war was not yet completely over. At the Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station in Florida, the atmosphere that day was still tense. 5 large Grumman TBF Avenger torpedo bombers stood on the runway. These warplanes, once feared by German submarines, were massive. The size of the planes was so large that when their 3 propellers began to spin, the entire airbase shook. At exactly 2:10 p.m., a signal came from the control tower. The engines roared as they accelerated, and black smoke began to rise into the air. One by one, the 5 planes sped down the runway and then roared into the sky. This mission was named Flight 19. There were a total of 14 brave pilots and crew members aboard these 5 planes. Many of them had completed numerous dangerous missions during the war. For them, this flight was just a routine training exercise. They were to fly along a set path, drop dummy bombs into the sea, and then return safely. Everything seemed normal. But as time passed, the situation began to change. Around 3:30 p.m., suddenly a panicked voice was heard over the headphones at the control tower. It was the voice of Flight 19's leader, Lieutenant Charles Carroll Taylor. "This is an emergency. We are not sure where we are. Everything looks strange. The ocean doesn't look like the ocean." The faces of the control tower officers turned stern. How could this be? Just a while ago, the sky was completely clear, and now the pilots were saying the ocean looked different. Taylor was continuously communicating with his squadron members over the radio. His voice fluctuated, sometimes soft and sometimes loud, as if he was trying to hide his confusion and fear. "Our compasses aren't working. Both compasses are broken. We can't tell where west is. Everything is messed up." The control tower tried to direct them to the correct path. However, Taylor and his squadron seemed to be lost in an invisible maze. In reality, they thought they were flying over Florida, but they were actually over the Bahamas. Their navigation systems had failed, and the compasses, under the influence of some unknown force, were pointing in strange directions. According to radio records, the voices of Taylor and his crew were growing increasingly anxious. At one point, their words carried such fear, as if they were saying, "The sky doesn't look normal. It feels different, almost unnatural." The control tower kept trying to guide the pilots, but things had already slipped out of control. Over the sea, the sun began to set slowly. The blue sky was suddenly filled with dark black clouds. Strong winds began to blow, waves started to rise, and everything seemed as if the sea and sky were conspiring against them. Over the radio, the pilots' broken voices were heard intermittently. In the midst of this chaos, suddenly a final terrifying voice echoed over the radio. It came slowly and brokenly, as if it was from another world. This voice was the last call of Flight 19. After that, only static and crackling noise could be heard over the radio frequency. The 5 planes and 14 pilots vanished in an instant. No plane was found, no wreckage, no bodies. Only a mystery remained, one that still baffles the world today. Within minutes, a rescue operation was initiated. Around 7:30 p.m., a massive Martin PBM Mariner seaplane took off from the Florida Naval Base. This aircraft, due to its size and shape, was known as a flying gas tank. On board were 13 brave crew members whose mission was to locate Flight 19 and bring them back safely. As the seaplane took off, the people at the base watched hopefully toward the sky. Perhaps a clue would be found, perhaps this mission would succeed. But little did they know, this rescue mission would also turn into a journey of death. About 20 minutes later, people watching the sea saw a strange sight in the sky. Far off, amidst dark clouds, suddenly a giant fireball flashed. It rapidly descended and vanished into the depths of the sea. People felt as though the entire sky had caught fire. It wasn't a meteor, it wasn't a natural event, it was certainly an aircraft. However, when the search was conducted, nothing was found. No traces of smoke, no oil slick, no wreckage. The Martin Mariner and its 13 crew members disappeared as if they were swallowed by the sea.